There are successful companies. And then there's Apple. A company that started in a small California garage and ended up changing the way the world listens to music, works, communicates and lives. But behind success there are betrayals, failures, layoffs, revolutionary ideas, and a man obsessed with perfection. This is the complete story of Apple. The story of how three young dreamers built one of the most powerful companies on the planet. The story begins in 1971, in California. At that time, computers were huge machines used only by governments and universities. Nobody imagined a computer inside every home. Except two young people. One was a brilliant engineer named Steve Wozniak. The other, a rebellious dreamer named Steve Jobs. They were completely different. Wozniak was shy and technical. Jobs was intense, ambitious, and extremely persuasive. But together, they made the perfect team. In 1976, together with a third partner named Ronald Wayne, they founded Apple Computer. The name Apple was chosen because Steve Jobs wanted something simple, friendly, and easy to remember. And so, Apple was born. The first product was the Apple I. A computer built by hand by Wozniak. Jobs had a radical idea: don't just sell parts, but a computer ready to use. To get money, they sold personal belongings. Jobs sold his truck. Wozniak sold his scientific calculator. Everything to finance your dream. A local store ordered 50 computers. It was a huge opportunity. The problem? They didn't have money to make any. But Jobs convinced suppliers to deliver parts on credit. It was risky. They could lose everything. But it worked. In 1977, Apple released the Apple II. And everything changed. It was colorful, modern, and relatively easy to use. While other computers looked like industrial machines, Apple seemed like the future. Sales exploded. Apple went from an unknown startup to a multi-million-dollar company in just a few years. Jobs was obsessed with perfection. Even the invisible parts had to look beautiful. That obsession would define Apple's DNA forever. In the early 1980s, Apple wanted to revolutionize computing again. Then the Macintosh project was born. The idea was simple: create a computer so easy to use that anyone could use it. In 1984, Apple released one of the most famous commercials in history. Inspired by the novel 1984 by George Orwell. The ad portrayed Apple as a rebellion against large technology corporations. And it worked. Everyone talked about the Macintosh. But within Apple, the problems began. Steve Jobs was brilliant, but also extremely difficult to handle. He yelled in meetings. He humiliated employees. And it generated constant conflicts. The board of directors began to worry. In 1985, something unthinkable happened. Steve Jobs was fired from Apple. Yeah. The founder of Apple was fired from his own company. It was one of the hardest moments of his life. But also, the beginning of something new. After leaving Apple, Jobs founded a new company called Next. Although his computers were not a great commercial success, the technology developed there would be very important years later. But the real surprise came when Jobs bought a small animation studio. That studio was called Pixar. Yeah. The same Pixar that would later create films like Toy Story, Finding Nemo, The Incredibles. Pixar revolutionized animated cinema. And it made Steve Jobs a billionaire. Meanwhile, Apple was in trouble. Very serious. The company was losing money. Their products were confusing. And Microsoft dominated the market. Many believed that Apple would disappear. Then the unexpected happened. In 1997, Apple bought Next. And Steve Jobs returned to Apple. The man fired from his own company was back. Jobs eliminated dozens of products, reduced projects, and he focused on creating few, but excellent products. Many employees thought he was crazy. But then the iMac arrived. Colorful. Transparent. Different. The iMac once again made Apple an innovative company. Sales returned. Apple was alive again. In 2001, Apple introduced a small device that would change music forever. The iPod. 1,000 songs in your pocket. That was the slogan. And the world was impressed. Apple also launched iTunes. For the first time, purchasing digital music was easy and legal. The music industry changed completely. January 9, 2007. Steve Jobs takes the stage. And it presents a revolutionary device. The iPhone. It wasn't just a phone. It was an iPod, a camera, and an internet browser, in one device. The competition did not understand the impact. But the world does. The iPhone transformed Apple into a global giant. They arrived, the App Store. The iPad. Apple Stores. The AirPods. The Apple Watch. Apple stopped being a computer company. It was now a complete ecosystem. But while Apple rose to the top, Steve Jobs was fighting cancer. On October 5, 2011, Steve Jobs passed away. The whole world reacted. Millions of people left flowers in front of Apple stores. Jobs didn't just create products. It changed entire industries. Computers. Music. Telephones. Animation. And technological design. After Jobs, Tim Cook took control of Apple. Many doubted him. But Cook managed to turn Apple into the most valuable company on the planet. Today Apple sells hundreds of millions of devices. And its products are part of the daily lives of people around the world. But it all started in a small garage. Apple's story shows that the biggest ideas can start in the smallest places. It also demonstrates something important: success is not a straight path. Steve Jobs was fired. Apple was close to disappearing. And yet, they came back stronger than ever. Because the companies that change the world, they are created by people who dare to think differently. Thanks for watching this video. And remember, the world's next great ideas have not yet been created.